Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Total OS today, here with my good friend from Australia, IG Infinitely Galactic is back. He never really left, he's just been busy. But just recently, we celebrated our 3 years of these discussions together. Thank you, IG. It's been a very fun 3 years plus. So, fill us in. How are things on your side of the world?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's pretty amazing from my perspective as well that we've been doing these podcasts on and off for the last 3 years, and I mean you've been pretty consistent really with churning out these podcasts with a host of different guests, and yeah, I mean I'm very grateful that yeah it sort of started out you and I discussing different things, and it's really snowballed from there. And there is a lot of good quality podcasts both here and on Spatry's channel as well. It all kind of came out of this idea of doing podcasts together. So I mean it's been a crazy busy time for me lately, but every now and again it's great to catch up and discuss what is happening in the world of Linux and open source and technology in general, because there's always seems to be plenty to
Yeah.
discuss. So
Yeah.
thanks once again for having me on the show, and I guess we can pat each other on the back for getting through 3 years of these things, even if it is a little bit transient in nature.
Well, if I don't have the sound machine going, but let's try with the clap. 3 years, yay!
Mm.
All right, all right.
Yay.
Okay, Spatry, stop it now. Come on, Spatry, go away now. Spatry is not here with us, but we've been doing these together with Spatry sometimes too. So
Exactly.
I had to toss in Spatry because he just uploaded the latest Cup of Linux edition of Manjaro, which looks kind of cool. Of course, he's into the dark theme, you know. And knowing how Spatry sometimes does things his own way, kind of crazy. On the, I don't know if you saw it, IG, but on the intro animation, I put down Total OS today, total technology for Spatry and normal people, and a few people got got a chuckle out of that. So Spatry, if you're listening, we love you, baby. Anyway, yeah. So he's been busy too with his thing and stuff. So we will definitely have to do a what is it we do? Oh, a Linux A team, of course. How could I forget? We haven't done one of those in a while. So yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
so yes, it has been over 3 years. The very first podcast that we did was over 3 years ago, May 31st, I do believe. And since then, we've been riding this wonderful wave of technology. Thanks to all of you people who take the time to tune in and listen to what we have to say. And hopefully it's something that's at least a certain percentage of it is somewhat worthwhile. But for this one, I thought we would just talk about the state of Linux, what's going on today, maybe some Linux gaming, and whatever else we have on our minds. Well, I guess I'll get started, IG. As from a Windows dual boot perspective, as far as the state of Linux in general, I think it's looking pretty good. Of course, Chromebooks, Chrome OS, of course, a form of Linux, continue to sell very well. Apparently, those type of machines, IG, they have everything you want in what I would call the ultimate computer. No malware and no bugs, where everything works out of the box. I don't know, do you have any idea if those are selling in Australia or you're not really sure?
No, I'm pretty sure they are selling pretty strongly here in Australia as well. I think overall, Windows laptops are still doing better in many regards, mainly because it's hard for customers to shake the idea of I need Microsoft Office, I need Windows, blah blah blah. But for the sales reps that have been able to convince customers that Chromebooks are worth it, I think they're gaining traction. Probably not as much as they are in the States, mainly because we don't have the range. For some reason, we don't seem to have the range of Chromebooks that are available in the States just on Amazon or something like that. We
Okay.
have, we have a number of different Chromebooks, but they're not as prevalent in your local, computer store or electronics shop. You don't just sort of walk in and have a whole different slew of Chromebooks to choose from. So yeah, I think they're gaining traction, but they're probably not as popular as they are in the States. At least that's my impression.
Okay. So I'm assuming Windows 7 and Windows 8 is still the king as far as what's in terms of sales. So,
Yeah, most likely. I think iPad sales and like tablet sales are probably eaten into the computing realm quite a bit. But and I guess that could probably be said across the board because mo many people are being convinced, especially elderly people or sometimes students as well are convinced that iPads or tablets are a better idea than buying a full-blown laptop. And I guess a lot of it is also budget driven.
Yeah, yeah.
If you can find a tablet that's $300 that does what you need, then buying a full-blown laptop, that's six, $700, $800 is, it's just unnecessary, I guess. And you only have to buy more software to use with it and try and maintain it. So
Well, yeah, it seems to me like in terms of what do you need or what's too much, unless you are a content creator like we are, you really don't need the heavy duty, multiple core, quad core, 16 gigabytes of RAM. You really don't need that. It's certainly nice to have, like as far as PCs go, laptops and stuff like that. But about a month or so ago, I had a discussion with Matthew Moore, who bought his first Chromebook at one of the Best Buys. It was a heck of a deal. They had for anybody who had an old XP machine trade-in working. Anyway, with the trade-in value, he spent like $100 for a brand new laptop. The
wow,
Acer,
that's pretty good.
yeah, I hope I get it right. The Acer 720. Not the top of the line, certainly, but he says, you know what? He was pleasantly surprised. Everything seems to work. No bugs, no malware. He can even do some limited video recording and editing if he had to. For what normally runs for 199 US dollars, he paid like half of it with the trade plus tax. That is a steal. Updates for life. That's not bad, folks. So,
Indeed,
so
indeed.
yeah, so definitely check those out. Um, we had talked briefly in pre-chat before we went live. And by the way, folks in IG, towards the beginning of the intro, the sound quality, I noticed IG was a little bit, it was kind of going in. I'm not sure if mine is doing that. Keep in mind, folks, that we are, how many thousands of miles are you? Like 10, 11,000 miles? I can't remember from the States, but sometimes the quality may fade in and out. Sorry about that. So, but
Yeah,
we shall
unfortunately,
continue.
one of these days it'll be great if I can get a dedicated internet connection that's not dependent on other people's infrastructure. But
Okay.
we'll wait and see.
All right. All right, Linux gaming, yeah. I've had requests in the past, as I'm sure you have. I've kind of held off until now, but I was trying to test a new downloadable game for both Linux and Windows. A car racing game, which I've always liked. I've always liked Need for Speed. I believe it's called Stunt Rally. Free for download. It's version 2.3. This is 3D graphics intensive. I try to do it in Ubuntu Linux, of course. Sometimes video drivers in Linux don't always mesh. I tried to play it in Windows. My computer is just not going to handle it. So maybe one of these days, maybe you and I can do like some kind of joint review of a game, and just check it out and see what we think. Maybe you from a Linux perspective and me from a Windows perspective. But that being said, it would appear that the future of gaming on Linux is getting better. I caught something tonight that I'm looking at it here. It says AMD wants to improve gaming in Linux and Steam boxes, and this goes on to say it wants to port something called the Mantle gaming tools. You guys can get more information of this on the web, but a big name. It's they're getting into the stadium as it were and getting into the game to improve not only the quantity but the quality of games coming to the Linux platform. And I believe the Valve's, what is it, the Steam machine or Steam box, or maybe those are, or like maybe those are interchangeable. That's coming out next year. If it's ready to go next year and everything works out of the box and no issues, I think it's well worth it. But for all of you gamers out there, I think the future of Linux in terms of gaming looks pretty darn good, I would say.
I reckon. I think, the floodgates have definitely opened in terms of the games that are coming over to Linux now. And I think SteamOS, we owe a lot of that to SteamOS just because of the momentum that they've really pushed in behind this. The recent announcement of Civ 5 being available now on Linux, and that was just not, nobody really saw that coming. It was just bam, all of a sudden it's released on Linux and it's going to be available in SteamOS. It's just, I reckon
Yes.
it's having a big company like Valve knocking on game developers' doors saying, hello, we're going to be launching a product in about a year, and we're going to need you to get on board here and put your game over because we need to become independent. And also, this is a good deal for you because let's face it, Windows market share is waning quite a bit. So if we get on, our own bandwagon, then your game is going to be safe with us, and we can, push it on a console-like device. So it's a win-win situation. So I think it's having
Yes.
a sync company like Valve, and I mean AMD as well. Fantastic, they're getting on board. To
Oh
be honest,
yeah.
they really needed to because their graphics support on Linux is a little sketchy compared to Intel and Nvidia.
Yes.
Um, but
Yes.
um, but yeah, I think with companies like that, putting pressure on game developers, major game developers, I'm talking about, then I think we'll continue to see these games trickle into the Linux Steam library until hopefully they can have a very successful Steam box or Steam machine launch next year. I think that would be fantastic
Right.
for them.
Well, look, the potential market is there. The latest poll I have, what do you prefer? PC games, console, mobile, and something else I can't think of. I thought it would be close, kind of a toss up between console and PC. So far, last I think I checked a few days ago, 76% prefer PC games. Now, I don't know if that's all Linux users and the Windows users voting, but what does that tell you? There is a market there. People like to play on their PC. Maybe it gives them a sense of more control,
Mm.
a different environment. I don't know. Like I said, one of these days when I'm able, I will definitely buy a PC that is capable of doing games, and I'll get back into it and give you my perspective as a dual boot or what I think of this versus, say, the Xbox 360. But of course, just last week, I don't know if you saw the E3 gaming convention here in the States. Uh,
Yes, I did catch up a little bit with it.
Okay, this is a big event, a big Hollywood splash. I didn't see all of it. I don't know if Linux was mentioned. Of course, of course, me being a big Halo fan of, the latest Halo 5 news came out. It's coming out next year, this fall. Halo 1 through 4, called the Master Chief Collection. Will be coming out in full 1080p, lots of goodies. And I believe the famed director Ridley Scott is filming a Halo movie in Ireland. That'll be a bonus on the disc. So check it out if you play Halo like myself, for those folks out there. But getting back to Linux games, there is a market. It's there. You mentioned Civilization 5, I believe Team Fortress, Left 4 Dead. Those are the bigger names, and I think there's a few more coming. But clearly, even with my poll of the microscopic world of the people that listen to us, clearly PC games for a lot of people, that's the way to go. So gamers out there and developers and AMD and Nvidia and all the developers who make the drivers for the cards for Linux, yes, there are people out there like myself, who's mainly a console gamer, would love to play PC games every once in a while, assuming that the software, matches the hardware. And of course, the quality of the games and all that good stuff. So, but definitely, I would say probably, I don't think we'll see a big improvement this year, but probably next year once that Steam box or yeah, whatever it's called, Steam box, Steam machine finally comes out and everything works. That's probably when we'll see faster release cycle of quality games and well-known games. So
Exactly. And I think we'll continue to see titles trickle into the fold between now and then as well.
right. Let's see, what else do I have here? Oh yes, we mentioned Windows. If you remember, when I first took a look at the beta for Windows 8, I thought it looked terrific because it wasn't the same old. But briefly, I said it looks good, but it still needs the start button, the classic start menu. Well, Microsoft refused to do it. They finally caved in a little bit, but ideally for people who wanted Windows 8, they had to download a third-party app. Well, IG, guess what? Supposedly there was some leaked news, good news. Next year, supposedly when Windows 9 comes out, the return of the start menu as you've known it, with some kind of integration with the tiles, which is fine. But apparently, the start button, the classic start and go, click to go, as I call it, is coming back. So, Microsoft,
There we go.
thank you. It's about time. Something so
So it's going to
simple.
be
Yeah.
Windows Episode 9, the return of the start menu.
I know it sounds like a Star Wars episode, like Return of the Star Wars or something like that. But
Exactly.
anyway, that's welcome news. So I've held off buying a Windows 8 machine. In fact, when I'm ready to buy my next PC, if I can get it with Windows 7, I'll just stick with that because Windows 8 still looks good, but it's still made for touchscreens. I mean, that's what it comes down to. So.
It is.
Okay, let's see. What else? Linux Mint. I believe you use it, and certainly I do. What's your current Linux distro of choice right now?
At the moment, I'm still finding myself with Ubuntu 14.04. I used it back when the Beta 2 came out, and it hasn't really moved since. That's on my primary
Okay.
laptop that I do most of my work on. But then I've also been sort of well, triple booting because I also have like Windows 8 on it as
Ah,
well.
yes.
And that shares between Ubuntu and Windows 8, that shares space on my SSD. And then on an external hard drive, I usually have one distro that I'm sort of playing around with and doing some work on for review purposes. And then that's what I'll usually be testing whatever I'm working on for,
Ah,
if it's a big distribution,
sure.
a couple of weeks or so before I actually review it. So
Okay.
that's been, like Ping iOS and Linux Mint and coming up with Deep in Linux as well, which is a
Mm.
pretty fascinating beast.
It looks different. It looks kind of slick, for lack of a better
It
term.
looks really slick.
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like you're still keyboard centric type of person going into Ubuntu's Unity, typing to where you want to go. Yes?
Yeah, to be honest, if anybody could ever point out any HUD menu functionality tool on any other desktop environment, then I would be very happy to switch because there are little things about Ubuntu that irk me,
Hmm.
but I really like that HUD thing. So if
So, well,
I'm sucker punched into the Ubuntu corner at this point.
here, yes.
I've tried using like other desktops and other distributions and other Linux distros have so much going for them, but I'm just like, you don't have a HUD menu, so I can't work as fast as what I do on Ubuntu. So
You know what? As a Windows dual booter, there's something about, look, when Unity first came out, it was hated. I suppose it still is to a certain point. But, for me, as an alternative to Windows 7, it was either Unity or the classic GNOME shell or GNOME 3 or like whatever it's called now. And to me, it just seemed like off the bat, Unity seemed friendlier. It still wasn't the same as GNOME 2. It's totally different. But that's what I use is Ubuntu's Unity. There's something about it. It's mostly stable. I like to, key into where I want to go and search, and there's just something about it that I love, just like you. So, I don't go into the GNOME shell. I mean, I have that GUI installed if I want to, log out and log into that just for something different. But there's something about Unity look, I know all the stuff about the privacy and the online search. Look, folks, just shut it off. If it bothers you, shut it off and move on. But yes, I'm really enjoying Ubuntu Unity, and 14.04 is not a big step up, any big changes, just a few little things, polishes here and there. But I don't recall having any crashes yet in 14.04. Have you?
I had a couple back in the beta 2s before it went stable, and I probably had maybe two or three the week that it came out. But after that, no, I've had nothing.
Cool. Wonderful. Okay, yeah, we did mention Linux Mint just to wrap it up. I believe the release candidate for KDE has just been released and XFCE. So we
Yeah,
will,
they're churning them out.
yeah, so I'm sure you and I will be taking a look at those sometime soon. And I'm a big fan of the Mate edition. There's something about that classic GNOME 2 look. Gee, it's tough to get away from that too. And I love the Mint menu. It's just something about it. It just rocks.
For me, whenever I'm running that distribution, like it always feels like I'm opening the door to like my beloved family home and just coming home
Yes.
again. It's just like, ah, yes, this is
Yeah.
where it all began.
If there is
And
such a thing as
there's
a
some,
classic Linux desktop, that's at least part of it, right? Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah, so check it out if you are a beginner or coming into Linux. Look, Zorin is still good because it reminds you of something familiar. Windows 7, which is terrific. Then maybe from there you can try the Linux Mint Mate. Then you can graduate into the Cinnamon, Ubuntu Unity, OpenSUSE, and the rest of them. But once again, Linux Mint Mate, major props. Kudos to the Linux development team for bringing the GNOME 2 look into the future, as it were, and it's wonderful. I really like it. So,
Indeed.
all
All
right,
right, now time for a funny, sentimental kind of story.
go for it.
Um, I way back when I was first looking into Linux and using it as a daily kind of desktop distribution, and looking to make a switch from Windows, mainly because I was completely disgruntled with Vista and the way that it would keep slowing down on my laptop and blah blah blah.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, I was trying out different distributions, and at that point I didn't have a very stable internet connection, so I was looking for one that was kind of pretty set up out of the box, and I wouldn't have to do too much work on it. So I tried Ubuntu, but that didn't really have too much going on. You had to do like a fair bit of tweaking to get it up and running to the point where you could use it every day. And I tried OpenSUSE, which was I thought was really professional, and I thought it was really polished. But again, there's just too much work involved getting it up and running. And then I discovered Linux Mint. And while I was researching it, I was at that point, I started out to begin with Linux Mint 8, but Linux Mint 9 came out a couple months after that, and I was curious to see what had changed. And so I searched YouTube for a Linux Mint 9 Isadora review, and that's where I first stumbled across your channel. And so I watched, I think, a 3 or 4 part
Hmm.
video series on Linux Mint 9.
Okay. That's when I was doing somewhat longer reviews, which I don't do anymore. But please continue. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So then it was so after watching those, then I went out and grabbed it, and yeah, and then and it was probably about another probably 6 months or 7 months after that that I started making videos of my own, which, funnily enough, the first one was on OpenSUSE.
Mm.
So there you go.
Well, thank you. Look, it is a small world. The videos when I started getting into this content creation stuff on YouTube, I was looking for other people to do the videos I was doing, or videos that I wanted to see for beginners, or maybe, well, now I say for beginners and beyond, because once you start as a beginner, of course, then you can learn more and more. They weren't there, IG. It seemed like at the time, what, 2009, it was Linux users telling me Linux is the best, the Windows users saying Windows. Well, of course, if that's all you use, I wanted Linux users to say, well, Windows has its points because, and I wanted a Windows users to say, well, Linux has its points because of Linux Mint, everything works out of the box, it's user friendly, it's easy to this, you know what I mean. And
Yeah,
you basically reinforced that, and here we are. So it's a terrific
funny old
story.
world.
Yeah, it's the internet has made us a lot closer. It's just too bad we don't have some kind of Star Trek transport portal. I can just hit a button like and meet you home like in 10 seconds, but not yet, folks. That would be
Yeah, we'll
cool.
have to we'll have to wait for another, I don't know, 50
Yeah.
years, no, 100 years, maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Yes. We'll have to wait
50,
for.
50 years ago, we didn't even have the internet. So, I mean, we've got to be closer.
You know what? Given enough time, I suppose almost everything is possible, right? Yeah. And
I like to think so.
yeah. All right. Well, I guess we should wrap this up because we're moving on into almost 40 minutes. And just like the very first one, we talked and talked and talked. And folks, it was over 2 hours and it didn't feel that way, which is good. Which is good. That means we can talk on, have good conversation, and the friendly vibe flows, and we are. I'm sure I speak for IG. We are very lucky to continue to do these and at least offer something to someone out there, even if you're not a beginner, maybe something that we've said that you maybe never thought of before. All right, well, let's wrap it up. Thanks again to all the wonderful folks out there. Thanks to IG for being my Australian friend, as I always like to call him. We mentioned, of course, Spatry. Shout out to Spatries, Cup of Linux, Matthew Moore. We should try to get together one of these weekends and just get all of us just you know, one big, discussion about just anything and just have some fun with the Linux 18. How does that sound?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Have a mother load of podcasters.
yeah. Just do like some kind of a news and nonsense blowout or something. Just say what's on your mind, family friendly, of course, and just I think that'll be fun. So we were trying to do something last week or something, but he texted me or he sent me a PM saying he wasn't feeling well. I hope he's Spatry. I hope you're feeling better, and definitely let's get together because IG and I miss you. So, IG, if you have some final thoughts, go ahead and then take us out.
Yeah, well, I mean, thank you once again, like Toto today has already mentioned, to everybody who tunes in and has been listening to these, and whether you've just started listening and started following either one of us, it's been a 3 year journey at least with these podcasts, and for Total OS today, his channel's been going longer than that, and mine's been going about that long, maybe a little longer, but yeah, it's been a pretty interesting journey. So if you've only just discovered us recently, or if you've been following along with us for the last 3 years, it's a pleasure to have you here, and your feedback is always welcome. So if you have any questions or any comments that you'd like to make about the show, or about stuff that you'd like us to talk about, or stuff that you'd like us to discuss, then definitely leave it down in the comments, and you can always find our channels and leave your thoughts there as well. So thank you all for watching, and of course, thank you to my host for having me on the show once again. And yeah, we definitely look forward to doing these in the future. So thank you all, and yeah, go for it.
And of course, you know how we end this, so we will catch all of you sometime in the future.